Welcome to the Noisy Composer. All right, we're back for another exciting episode of Theory with the Noisy Composer. Anyways, today we're going to work on 6/4 chords, and generally you can organize them into three categories. So, neighbor 6/4, passing 6/4, accented 6/4. But before we go into each of those, I'd like to do a quick review on 6/4 triads. So I'm looking at this D in the bass voice, and then there's a 6/4. And if you remember, 6/4 is the second inversion triad, therefore the fifth of the chords in the bass. So these numbers are intervals above this given note. So let's count up just to review. So 4 above this note, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creates a chord, a G-B-D chord. Therefore, it's a G triad in second inversion. All right, let's try another one. I'm looking at this G note in the bass with this 6/4. So 6 above this G, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a C, and 6 above is an E. So therefore, this is a C-E-G chord. G's in the bass, that's the fifth of the chord. You can also just memorize 6/4 as a second inversion triad, knowing that you're looking at the fifth of the bass. Okay, let's look at the first category, neighbor 6/4s. So if you remember, what we're looking here is two chords, a 1 chord and a 1 chord. And in between we have a neighbor tone, a non-chord tone, upper neighbor. And if you remember, neighbor tones are approached by step and resolved by step. And they're unaccented, they're off the beat. Okay, so what we have here is this upper note going up and down. That's our neighbor tone. Also, if you remember, I mentioned that I wanted you guys to focus on having one non-chord tone at a time. Otherwise, you would create chords. But now, guess what? We need to make chords, so let's do this. So where we could place another neighbor tone could be in the alto voice. So let's do that. So in the alto voice, I can put an upper neighbor and create a chord. Now let's listen to that. So measure 2, play. Okay, and so therefore you can hear that there's chords. Now this first chord is a G chord, G-B-D, and this second chord on beat 2 is a C-E-G chord in second inversion. Let's quickly label this. So if we double click here and put in 4, this is a 4/6/4. And don't forget to put the brackets in, showing that it doesn't function. Remember, these chords are in second inversion, the fifth's in the bass, and they don't function well. They're not really working, so hence the brackets. Okay, let's look at our next example. We have the dominant chord, a 5 chord. Don't forget in minor, you raise the leading tone. And we have a neighbor tone here in the tenor voice. So what we're going to do is we're going to add one more. Now we're asking for a 6/4, and I've already labeled it as a 1/6/4 because if in the key of D, A is in the bass, we need to know that, let me see, if A is the fifth of the chord, then the root of the chord would be D, D, F, A. And therefore, we know it's a 1 chord. So now we have to create a DFA. So which voice would be best to put an F in? This alto voice. So I'm going to, let's do that. So, and this is up, this is a layer 1, I gotta change it. Nope, layer 2, my bad. So we're gonna change this to an E quarter note, and then F. Okay, and this is correct. Let's hear it. Measure 3. Spicy. Okay, let's move on to our next example. All right, so I'd like to give you one more the neighbor example. So if I'm looking at measure 4 here, we can see that there's a 5 chord in beat 1, 5/7 chord on beat 3, and in beat 2, in the tenor voice, there's a neighbor tone. Now, we've already labeled a 1/6/4, just like the previous D minor example. We know that it's going to be a D F-A triad. But in this example, in the alto voice, we could actually put in a neighbor tone. Let me show you. So therefore, we have one chord, and then here's our D, F, A, 1, 6, 4 into our 5, 7. So notice it doesn't have to always be two neighbor tones. There can actually be an example of a passing tone in between. Let's listen to that. Okay, let's move on to passing 6/4 examples. All right, so let's do some passing 6/4 examples. Starting with measure 5, we have a 1/6 chord in the key of A, and then we have a 1 chord. In between, we have a passing tone that will create a chord out of itself. Now, again, in the key of A, if there's a B in the bass and it's a 6/4, we know we're looking at the 5th of the chord, and therefore the 5th of the chord of B would be E, so E, G, B. And in the key of A, that's a 5. So that's how I came up with this analysis. Now let's put some notes in. So E, G, B, what we could do is we'll put in a treble clef, voice 1. We have a common tone we can use. And then in the tenor voice, we can put a B in here. And what remains is an alto voice. So we can do, let me see, we have E, G, B, so we're missing a G. There we go. And this will be the voice leading for this example of a passing 6/4. Let's play measure 5. Okay, good. Let's move on to measure 6. Let me shift it over here. We're in F sharp minor. Now this time, instead of starting in first inversion going to root position, it's backwards. So we're starting on root position and then going to first inversion. Again, we have a passing tone in between. So therefore, in the key of F sharp minor, if there's a G, right, that would be a G sharp. Okay, so therefore, the root of the chord would be C sharp. So it'd be a CEG chord. So if we look, we already have a C here we can use, E and G. So let's do that. So let's put the E in the alto since we're already in layer 2. And then we'll go to layer 1 and put in a CEG. So this would be a C and a G here. There we go. That will align after we change this or move it or play it or something. All right, let's play it. Let's see what measure 6 sounds like. Nice. No, you wait. Okay, now let's move on to our last example, accented 6/4s. Now, we already know what a cadential 6/4 is, and that was even in our example. It's accented and it's on the beat. So these previous examples of neighbor and passing 6/4s were all unaccented, they were off the beat. So now these accented 6/4s are on the beat. And again, we know this cadential 6/4. We've done this before. So let me put this in. We're looking, we have a 1 chord, going to a 4 chord, going to a cadential 1/6/4, which is basically a 5. But this would be a B, D, F chord. Let me see, what could we do here? So we could put an F in the alto part and change our voice layer to B, D, F. So we could put a B in the soprano and D, and that would do it. Let's listen to measure 7. Okay, we know this already. That's a review. So now let's move on to our last example, which is an accented, but instead of a cadential 6/4, it is like a plagal chord, 4/1. But it uses this G, right? We're in the key of G minor. It uses this G as a pedal. So let's go ahead and put that in. So in the key of G, we have a G in the bass. So therefore, that's the 5 of the chord. Therefore, the root is C. So it's a C, E, G chord. So we'll put the C in. We can put it right here. C, E, G. We can put the E up here. And then we'll change our layer to put in the alto voice, which would be C, E, G. There we go. All right, let's listen to measure 9 and 10. All right, so those are our examples of the 3 different 6/4 chords. The neighbor 6/4, the passing 6/4, and the accented 6/4. All right.
Psst, don't forget to subscribe.